strategy, Kabul must be burned. You burned it. My mother lost a 16-year-old son. Since 1992 till today, her tears has dried up. And millions, 2.5 million were killed. And still Afghanistan is suffering. When it comes to personal issues, are you ready to condemn your actions and apologize? Make an apology to my mother and to people like me and millions of Afghans who you have killed.
You made your point very strongly, sir. Yeah. Let the general respond now.
Make an apology, stand trial, or to be dragged to a court. Thank you.
Look, I'm very sorry for any personal losses that people have suffered. That policy got the Soviet occupation vacated. As far as the destruction of Kabul is concerned, that took place after the Soviet withdrawal because of a particular civil war that took place, the power struggle that took place between the PDPA and subsequently the Mujahideen.
Gentleman here in the yellow jacket, you want to wait for the microphone to come to you?
Do you not think, General Asad, that Britain has played a larger role in making the Taliban more violent in places like Helmand than Pakistan ever has?
The only good thing that I can think that the British did, they did not come down too heavily on narcotics. Because, and I'm very serious about this, once everyone else is gone, the foreign aid has also been taken away. What are the Afghans going to do to sustain this particular structure that has been created? They will probably be banking more on the narcotics.
And you'd be in favor of that?
I'm not trying to say that it's a good thing or bad thing, but 2 to 3 million Afghans nowadays live on this industry.
And it's also a great sustainer of the Taliban, of course, who, remember, you wanted us to applaud. Let's take a question from a lady there in the black shirt.
Back in the 90s, you thought that you wouldn't change a thing the way the ISI handled the Taliban. How do you think you would do things differently now when the US forces and NATO forces retreat from Afghanistan? And how do you think that will affect Pakistan's future?
I think Pakistan has been trying to position itself for the last about few years as to what would happen. Last 4 or 5 years, I see Pakistan trying to mend its fences with Iran. With Russia, I suppose we've made a breakthrough. The region together, trying to persuade, coax, bribe, somehow they'll push the Afghan factions to find that consensus that I've been talking about.
Okay, let's take a question from the back. Gentleman there.
After the Peshawar incident, you've had the setup of the military courts in Pakistan. As a counter-terrorism strategy, do you think that will be successful?
Sure. The CIA carried out abhorrent torture, but at least American politicians published a report on it. Have we had an equivalent report on the ISI? Has the Pakistani parliament ever produced a report on the ISI's wrongdoings in the way that the US Senate did the other day?
Because there were no wrongdoings, so that's why they were.
Okay. Lady there in the red shirt, and then this gentleman here has been waiting a while.
I remember people writing about the results of supporting Taliban. That was a time when army would deny that, there's not going to be a blowback. My question to you is that now that there has been a blowback, what about all those militants that we continue to keep, like Hafiz Saeed?
The blowbacks were inevitable. Blowbacks happen. How do you take care? How do you manage the blowback? No, that's actually the test. As far as Hafiz Saeed is concerned, I don't think there has been enough debate on Hafiz Saeed, his role, his present status, court acquittals, and so on and so forth.
Okay, let's go back to the audience. I said this gentleman here.
General Durani, you're in Britain. We're all British in here. Our government pays millions and millions of pounds to Pakistan, and ISI and the army, saying that they are our partners in killing the terrorists. You are sat here promoting and supporting all elements that kill British soldiers, which are British citizens. Are you sat in Oxford promoting, glorifying terrorism? And are you the terrorist that we should be looking for?
The British soldiers went to Afghanistan as part of an invading force. They fought a war there, and some people would die.
And many of those
soldiers, when the soldiers go and take part in the war, there is no such insurance guarantee that they are going
General
to come
Durani,
back.
in the interests of balance, the British government would point out that whatever happened in 2001 happened under a UN resolution. The soldiers that went into Helmand went in with the consent of an elected Afghan government.
Yeah, those people who are resisting them, they're not going to be looking at the United Nations security resolutions, which United Nations, in any case, the United Nations Security Council has become a handmaiden of certain powers.
Okay,
right?
gentlemen here.
General Durani, it is appalling to see that your pragmatism is based on envy, jealousy, and paranoia instead of justice and morality. How would you answer those who argue that the jihadist group created by ISI in policy to bleed India by giving 1,000 cuts has been a disaster in the whole region? Now the ISI has reached a point when there is no return.
The war goes on, certain battles take place, certain developments will come in a particular situation.
You heard of the
things
Japanese
like that.
soldier who was found
Look
in a
here.
jungle thinking the war was still going on and everyone else had moved on?
It goes on.
I'm going to go to the lady here.
I'm sympathetic to the criticism of America's war of occupation in Afghanistan, but I'm curious, the one time that the Pakistani military and the generals could have resisted was to actually save the people of Afghanistan from this current invasion, but General Musharraf rolled over and agreed to provide political support to the Afghan war, to the invasion of Afghanistan. So is there a different standard?
I would say that once that decision was taken, there was an environment in which one could have understood. 9/11 has taken place. The whole world is, shouting for a revenge and action. And at that time, General Musharraf says, we will cooperate. Over a period of time, to his credit, I think he also started understanding that this type of an alliance is not going to do any good to Afghanistan or to Pakistan. That is what he realized. And that is the time when the parting of the ways took place, till the period of 2011 when I said, well, both the countries are now at war with each other.
Okay. Last audience question, gentleman in the blue shirt here.
Hi, as an Indian, I would like to ask, don't you think the desperateness of Pakistan for Kashmir has compromised the development of the country as a whole? Like, won't it be good? The money which Pakistan receives as a foreign aid, it invests in civilian development like setting up big universities like Oxford or IITs in India rather than funding militants in Kashmir?
Yeah, these are always a very difficult balance to be struck between how much you want to spend on the military and how much for the civil society.
Pretty bad balance in Pakistan.
Maybe it was a situation that led to that. Maybe more money was spent because security was the main concern. Possibly the money that was allocated to the civilian agencies may not have been used as effectively as the one that was spent on the military. Just because after all, just remember one thing, despite all these things, if today the equation between India and Pakistan has come to a stalemate, it's stalemated, conventionally and unconventionally. So some use of that particular money that was spent on the military can be reasonably understood, if not justified. When it comes to helping, and that is the DNA of Pakistan. Just a minute, probably the most important point this evening. Pakistan is not like any other normal country.
No, that's clear.
No, it is not. It's a very unusual place. Historically, the Muslims of the subcontinent have associated themselves with the greater Ummah. Khilafat movement, they sent people there. After the birth of Pakistan, not only providing help to the Afghans to resist foreign aggression, sending pilots to Syria to fight the Israelis, Chechens and Bosnians being supported by the Pakistanis, the militaries in the Gulf being trained by the Pakistanis.
The cost at home.
Well, there is always going to be a cost for these sublime purposes. These are,
You genuinely believe these are sublime purposes?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, given you
Today, if Pakistan is in the limelight, for some people, perhaps not for the best of reasons.
I think it's undoubtedly not for the best of reasons. Let me ask you this last question then. You've spoken very confidently tonight. Many would say you've expressed some pretty appalling views, I'll have to be honest about that. But you've done it very confidently, very passionately. Let me ask you this then. When you were head of the ISI, and when you look back on your career, what do you regret most?
During my period, Afghanistan to be settled, the uprising in Kashmir taking place, the political transition within the country. So I'm not claiming that everything was done optimally, to the best of the abilities. One could have done a few things differently. But at that time, one was muddling through, one was trying to make the best of a bad situation. And God knows one has made more than one shares mistakes. Now that is true, that has happened. However, at least one saw ISI's assessment of the Iraq situation, 1991, was better than the CIA's. So those were a couple of things that were not too bad. Same time, one must have fallen short on certain other counts.
General Durani, thank you for joining us here on Head to Head in the Oxford Union. Thank you very much to our panel as well for joining us. Thanks to our audience here in the Oxford Union, and thanks to you all for watching at home. Good night.